Hey everybody, we are back with another time series modeling tutorial in Stata. So the topic here is going to be the rolling regression model. And the idea here is you're running a regression in time series data. We'd like to assume that the coefficients, the intercept, the slope, all the marginal effects are constant over that time sample, but we can't be sure of it. The rolling regression is a pretty easy, quick, and powerful way to diagnose whether or not you have stability in those coefficients over time. So we'll look at it kind of in general here, and then we'll jump into Stata and work through a quick example. So here is the scenario that we are imagining. We have a simple regression, y as a function of x, where we have time series data. So note, of course, we have our y sub t, x sub t, but we also have the intercept and the slope with a time subscript as well. So we are concerned here about time variation in those coefficients. And this is something you could address with a unit root test, right? Make sure your variables are stationary. That can help avoid time varying coefficients. We can also address this with a structural break test. That'll be another tutorial that we'll look into. But here, we want to be able to get as close as we can to this scenario where we imagine that the slope term, the beta, the intercept, the alpha, potentially has a different value every time period in your sample. Okay. Obviously, an extreme case of instability. And wouldn't it be great if we could actually estimate, right, those coefficient values at different points over time? In fact, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could estimate them at every point in time? Of course, we can't do that, right? Not directly anyway, right? Yt and xt, one observation at one point in time for each variable can't be used to generate a single coefficient. But here's the closest we can get, the so-called rolling regression, right? So the model here, again, is the same. Yt as a function of xt, alpha and beta are changing over time. Well, rather than using just a single observation to get a beta at time t, if we think of that as the middle of a window of observations, right? So what we're going to do is run a model with a subsample, right, at each point of time, get the coefficients, and then roll that sample over one period into the future. The same number of observations will be estimated. We'll get these local regressions that will then allow us to plot out how those parameters, at least how our estimates of those parameters, change throughout the sample. Okay. So we, the researcher, right, has to decide on what that window width is going to be, right? How many observations are going to go into each little subsample. Then once we've decided on that, then at every point in time t, right, that'll be the center of the estimation. We'll go t minus half of your window width to t plus w over 2 to get that local regression, right? So if we imagine, say we have 50 observations in our window, w is equal to 50, our first observation that we'll estimate here would be at observation 25, right? And we'll go 25 observations into the future up to the 50th observation, and the beginning of the window will be at basically time period 0, time period 1, right? And then we'll just move that whole thing to the right one period. We'll go, instead of 0 to 50, we'll go 1 to 51, etc. That's the rolling, right, that we're imagining. These little local subsamples moving through the entire time series sample. And each one of those little local regressions will have W observations in it. And that's just a reminder, right, that in order to get any sort of validity out of this, you don't want that window width to be below 30, right? What the value is going to be is going to depend on your overall sample. If you've got 1 million observations, yeah, you might throw 1,000 or 5,000 into that window. If you only have 200 observations, you might want to make it a little bit more narrow. So like I just said, the choice of W, that'll be based on your sample size, how many coefficients you want to go ahead and estimate. Between 30 and 100 is a good rule of thumb. The first observation, right, the first value of beta hat that's going to come into the sample will be at time period W over 2, right? So we need those first W over 2 observations to represent the beginning of our first local regression sample. So in other words, you're not going to get a beta sub t for every time period in your overall sample. Likewise, the last one is going to be at big T minus W over 2. You got to preserve those last observations for the local sample. And then what we're going to want to do with this is basically generate some visual evidence of the stability or lack thereof in your coefficient. So the end result is going to be not a hypothesis test per se, but a plot of those marginal effects over time. And of course, it's never going to be perfectly stable. Whenever you run that regression over a small subsample, there's going to be random variation, random fluctuations. And the smaller that window width, the more volatile it's going to be, the more susceptible that beta hat is going to be to any single error term. But what we're looking for are trends, right? Do you see systematic changes in those estimates over time? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Is there a reason to believe that the entire sample estimate is not, in fact, a good representation of that data generation process, that there is, again, significant structural change happening throughout that sample? Another nice feature is that we can generate the standard errors of those coefficients, the standard errors of the beta hats each period, and we can actually plot out, we can do a little calculation and plot out the 95% confidence interval around our estimates. So we can see, we get some idea of the significance of the coefficient and whether or not that changes, again, within our sample. So the actual command in Stata is going to look like this. So our regression that we're going to run is here. That's the last thing we put in, our generic regression of y as a function of x. We start out with rolling. You don't have to do this, but if we specify _b and _se, that's going to tell Stata we want the slope, intercept, and the standard errors for each. The default does not include the standard errors. And then the window width we will specify. Then we'll come to that clear in a second. So the _b, and that's the default, gets the alpha and the beta, right, for each of our x variables. We'll get the slope coefficient, the standard error, we want that. The m, again, that's going to be a number. We'll plug in some value there between 30 and 100, rule of thumb. The number of observations in each window in each local regression. And then clear, we know what that does. When we type in clear into Stata, it clears everything out. So what it's doing is getting rid of your original data and making room, so the y and the x, whatever else you had in your data set disappear, and it makes room for these variables here. So we don't have a way of adding them to the data set you already have. It replaces your data set. So word of caution, save your data before you use the rolling command, and better yet, type in preserve before you do this, and then when you're done, type restore, and it takes you back to the original state of your data set, the x and the y, and then whatever your regression here is. And also note that the rolling command doesn't work with every estimation command in Stata. I actually haven't tried it with everything, but I know it doesn't work, at least last time I tried it. I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe it's been upgraded with the ARIMA estimation command or the ARCH estimation command, which are, of course, our go-to time series estimators. So we're a little bit limited in terms of the model that we can run. Okay, let us now jump into Stata. And I've got a little toy data set here already generated. I'll put in the description the commands to get this. We've seen it before. So it's using the getsymbols command to get daily stock price data. and I've generated the daily return on Apple stock and the daily return on the S&P. And the idea is we're going to be running something like this, a super simple, say, capital asset pricing model regression. Apple return as a function of the market return, which is the role being played by the S&P. And we would get a value like this. So coefficient 1.12, significant at 1%, a somewhat surprisingly robust 71% R squared, and our intuition, right, to say, okay, screenshot it, print it, good to go. Here's an estimate of the beta, right, the CAPM beta for Apple over the last year. We are done. Well, maybe, maybe not, right? We would really like to have an idea of how stable that value is over this time period. And here, of course, is where the rolling regression comes in. So I'm going to do what I suggested. Half the time I forget, this time I remembered. We type in preserve, and then we're going to do the command rolling. I will also specify the underscore B underscore SE. And then we will do the window here, say of, we don't want to go overboard. We'll go 100 observations in the window, so we won't get too many values generated. And then we got to type in clear, and then the colon, and then our super simple regression here. Obviously, you could have, a multiple regression model if you have more variables. Whatever the case is, as long as it's OLS. RA as a function of RM. And this will take a moment. So what we're waiting for is each of those windows to be estimated, and you'll know when it's done because all of this data in the upper right will disappear and be replaced by the time series of our coefficient estimates. Okay. So my computer seems to be taking its time. How you guys doing? Having a good day? Everything good? It's almost done. There it is. So what do we see? As advertised, the underscore B RM, well, that's the slope parameter on the market return, underscore B CONS, that's our alpha hat, that's the constant. And then the standard errors for each, and then the start and the end, as the names imply, that's going to be the time period of the first beta, which is going to be, again, W over 2, and then the end, the time period of the end of the window. So it's kind of like the beginning of the window and the end of the window as they make their way through. So we want to plot this out with our time series, our TS line graphing command. So in order to do that, we do need a consistent time series indicator. If we wanted to be more complete about this, we would generate a date variable. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other headache. So I'll just generate a variable, call it trend equal underscore n, and then I'll go tsset trend, and then I can go ahead and use my TS line command, and let's just plot out the beta RM. So the slope term, and what we're looking for again is stability over time. And we're not really seeing that, right? So the full sample value, right, was about like, what was it, 1.12, something like that. And look what we see. We start out with a much higher value, basically comes down to 1, right? So kind of a neutral stock, if you will, in the CAPM vocabulary, and then it climbs back up again. So what this tells us is it really matters where you are in the sample, how this stock is going to act. In the middle, it's kind of, again, a neutral stock. It's not defensive, it's not aggressive. At the beginning and at the end, it seems to be noticeably more volatile than the market, right? That beta being above 1. So we can add a little bit more to this by using those standard errors, right? So what we can do is create the upper bound and the lower bound of a 95% confidence interval. And I'm gonna approximate that here, right? Just by taking the 1.96 as our critical t value. So we'll go beta plus 1.96 times the standard error. That's going to be the upper bound. Beta hat minus 1.96 times the standard error. That'll be the lower bound. So we can generate UB, the upper bound. So that'll be our slope term plus 1.96 times the appropriate standard error, the SERM. And then bring that command back up and go from UB for the upper bound, LB the lower bound, and just change the plus to a minus. And now do the TS line again, where we put the coefficient, each period the upper bound and the lower bound. And why don't we throw a line in there? So let's say Y line 1, so we can see if it's significantly above or below that kind of point of interest. Here, 0 seems to be a safe bet. We seem to be significantly away from 0 every time. But now here's a nice little graph that would be a real nice companion to that regression output. So, well, here's my beta right over the entire sample, but here's what it's doing each period, right? So it becomes, it's here, it's significantly above 1. Now once 1, that red line enters into that that space between the upper and lower bound, well, we can no longer reject the null that the coefficient is different from 1, right? All the way through here. And then finally, 1, that red line shoots out from that lower bound, and now it's significantly above 1 again. So a much richer story than we get from just that regression where you get 1 beta hat. Where you would go next with this, right, is you might want to figure out, well, what's going on behind the scenes, right, of what changes, and can we predict those changes that make that beta hat come down, and then come back up, maybe running it as a switching model, as a multi-state model. But at the very least, you could, again, present this with your findings and say there's some evidence of instability, so handle with care, use with caution as you go forward. So last thing we might want to do, once you get the graph that you want, you put that into your report. We're not going to need this anymore, right? So we can go back and go restore, and it'll take us back to the original data set where you would go on, say, to the next stock, whatever it is you're working on. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.